Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, which is treated articles. And we'll be talking about what that is, what it means in the general regulatory context, what the regulations are, and also looking at some consumer insights in terms of what does that mean to the consumer, and looking at some consumer research for treated articles as well. So we've got some really interesting topics to go over today. Just so you know, this webinar is being recorded and I will be sending out the recording afterwards. So don't worry if you need to dip out at all, we'll be able to send that out. There is going to be a chance for question and answer at the end as well. So if you've got any questions as we go through, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box. And if you want to share anything with other audience members as well, use the live chat. We like to see people chatting. I think it helps questions come out, share your experiences and any concerns you've got. And yeah, make it really lively, guys. We want to see what you've got to say about it as well. I'm also joined here by Freesia Day from Connect for Compliance, who I'll be introducing in a bit more detail very shortly. But I just want to run through the agenda today. So we'll be looking at the Biocides Market because that is what a treated article fits within. So what is a treated article in particular? So we can go through that as well. Freesia will be taking us through the treated article regulations and kind of looking at that into the general biocides field. I'll be sharing a case study of a consumer research study for a treated article product. And as I mentioned, we've done some market research and we're going to share those insights for you as well on what consumers think of those kinds of products as well. So Freesia, it'd be great if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Carys. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Freesia Day. I am the founder of Connect for Compliance Limited, an UK and EU regulatory and compliance consultancy firm in warranting product safety, regulatory compliance, claim substantiation, formulation support, and product development for consumer products, in particular biocide, cosmetic, medical devices, class 1 and 2, and cleaning products. I have developed a strong track record of success in the past 18 years, working very closely with UK and EU regulatory agency, including MHRA, HSE, ECHA, European competent authorities, DEFRA, and Biocide. The ethos of the business is we will make it happen for you and for your business. I'm supporting a wide range of businesses with different turnover throughout UK and EU, working on ad hoc projects or in the long-term project basis or agreement. At the moment, the hot topic, apart from treated articles, is UK and EU legal representative, responsible person for biocide, cosmetic, and REACH, which seems to be the top three, I guess, inquiries and support that we will get asked by our GB-based businesses or EU-based businesses. Thanks, Carys.
Amazing. Thank you, Freesia. So yeah, as you can see, Freesia is a huge expert in this topic. So any questions, please do feel free to ask as we go through the presentation, because it's a great opportunity to get her expertise. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Regulatory Director at ATOM Global Research. So we are a consumer research company and we're focusing on perception claims in particular. So in terms of this kind of overall topic, we're much more interested in the advertising regulations, making sure that your claims are actually up to standard where you're marketing your product, and also your efficacy claims. Does the product live up to the consumer's expectations? So we've got a bit of either side here, you know, kind of the marketing side and also our regulation side, which I think should give you guys a really good overview of the topic. So yeah, I'm a specialist in kind of advertising and claim regulations. So if you've ever got a question about that kind of situation, please let me know. I'll be happy to help as well. So I want to start off by talking about the biocides market, because as mentioned, this is really the overarching kind of industry that we're discussing today. So there's an interesting kind of graph here from Allied Market Research, which is looking at where the kind of industry sits. So obviously, we'll be talking more about consumer goods today with that kind of hat on, but it is a huge part of the agricultural field as well, and pharmaceutical and everything like that, because it is about making sure that, and I know Freesia will describe it a bit more, making sure that we're not getting any kind of things that we don't want growing on our products, whether that is something growing your face cream or something growing on your plants. So agriculture is kind of the biggest sector, but obviously we'll be talking more consumer today. Really interestingly, APAC is the largest market and China's the largest of that kind of side of the world as well, in terms of where the market is, from water treatment, household and personal care, paints and coatings, food and beverage, everything like that. That's what they're kind of driving things from. There is also a huge market in Europe, and obviously it's really heavily regulated by REACH. And again, as Freesia mentioned, that's a really big part of what she gives guidance on as well. I wanted to bring up the impact of COVID-19 on the market because, interestingly, I found this information from Markets and Markets from just last month to say that it's had a really neutral effect on the biocides market, because biocides really covers everything, antibacterial, all that kind of side that we kind of relate to what's been really kicking off with COVID in terms of protecting ourselves against virus and everything like that. But actually, the supply and demand has not actually been able to catch up. So there's been a huge demand for these products, but there's been a real issue with keeping up with that demand. So it's kind of neutral, which is a really interesting fact. I do think that it will probably change. I think that, and you'll kind of see when we go into the market research, this is something that's probably going to continue to grow, because when you have something like a global pandemic, I do think people are going to be keen to, making sure they're not using biocides products at all. But yeah, it's interesting food for thought and something to keep our eye on. So, Freesia, what is a treated article?
Thanks, Carys. Well, before we start discussing this topic, I think it is important to note that this topic, treated article, is covered as part of biocidal product regulations. So the requirements of Articles 57 and 59 of BPR will go through details of treated articles. So I just think it would be really good if we sum up what biocidal product means before we jump into the discussion about treated article. So biocidal product means any substance, mixture, in the form that it's supplied to user, consists of or containing or generating one or more active substances with the intention of destroying, deterring, rendering harmless, preventing the action of, or otherwise exerting a controlling effect on any harmful organism by any means other than physical and mechanical actions. It will bring me nicely into a treated article. A treated article, as defined by Great Britain and EU biocidal product regulation, is any substance, mixture, or article which has been treated with or intentionally incorporates one or more biocidal product is classed as treated article. But as we know, this is not going to be as simple and straightforward, and we will have some cross between biocidal product and treated article. And as I mentioned, the definition of treated article is covered and as part of biocidal product regulation. So the law also states that a treated article that has a primary biocidal function shall be considered as a biocidal product and not a treated article. Examples of treated articles are a paint that contains an incant preservative. So that will be classed as a mixture treated article. A pair of socks, towel that contains silver fiber to prevent odor. So that means it's article incorporating a biocide, and or a refrigerator that has been treated with substances to prevent mold and odor. So that will be a treated article. The law excludes any premises or containers used for storage and transport which are treated with biocidal fumigant or disinfectant, that where no residue are expected to remain. So these type of premises or containers are exempt. So that would be, for example, storage facilities or the containers that are coming from outside the UK that they are usually subjected to some sort of fumigations are excluded from the requirement of treated article. Next slide, please. So to determine if you are dealing with a treated article or a biocide, you need to decide if the article has primary biocidal function. So as a general rule, a function of an article if it's primary, you have to think about it. If you are taking that biocidal action from the products, and that removal of biocidal action cannot be done without fundamentally altering the purpose or intended use of the article. For example, if you remove the biocidal from a disinfectant wipes, the wipe no longer has any purpose. So the disinfectant action is the primary biocidal function. And if we're thinking about the secondary function or secondary biocidal function, is where the biocidal action can be removed, an article can still be used for the non-biocidal purpose by the same intended user. For example, a chopping board which incorporates a disinfectant can still be used to prepare food without disinfectant. The disinfecting action is the secondary function, as the primary function of a chopping board, as we know, is to prepare food. And again, like any regulations, nothing is straightforward and simple, which we'll I'm moving on to the next example, is where a treated article which has one function, and when this function is also biocidal function. So by default, that product will be a biocidal product. For example, a mosquito net, which are treated with insecticides or insect repellents, are intended solely to control mosquitoes. Removing the insecticides or insect repellent does not fundamentally alter the purpose or intended use of the net, as it is the net will still control mosquitoes. In some instances, some articles might be both biocidal product and a treated article. Moving on to the next slide, please. And I've gathered some examples from HSE websites to go through for the purpose of the definition of treated articles and biocidal product. So starting with the first example, we're talking about a wooden bench that is being painted with wood preservative. So the bench can still be used as seating if the wood preservative is removed, and the food preservative used to paint the bench will be a biocidal product. So a wooden bench which has been painted with wood preservative would be classed as a treated article. Pair of socks, towels, gloves with odor-free, stay fresh or antibacterial claim. Those articles, i.e. socks, towels and gloves, they can still be used for their intended use, i.e. keep feet warm or protect hands when washing up or dry skin. And even if you remove the biocidal property of that article, the article can still be used and the main primary function of the article remains. So that will be classed, that type of product will be classed as treated articles. Mosquito repellent wristband, the purpose of the wristband would be fundamentally altered if the repellent was removed. So the mosquito repellent wristband will be classed as a biocidal product, not a treated article. Interior paint containing an incant preservative. The paint can still be used to color walls if the incant preservative is removed. The paint may not last as long while it's in is in the packaging before use. The preservative added to the paint would be the biocidal product, and the product as whole would be classed as a treated article. If we move on to the next slide, please. So the treated articles properties. So the biocidal product protects articles from harmful organisms like pests, mold, and bacteria and odor. The actual treated articles, they do not provide in application biocidal properties, i.e. when you are using antibacterial washing up gloves, plates, pots and pans that they will come across or in contact with gloves, they will not become antibacterial surfaces, whereas the lining of the glove has contained some biocidal substance or mixture that will make the gloves last longer and remove or retain odor or remove bad odor. The regulations, which I've mentioned before, that covers treated articles is biocidal product regulations, and it only applies to treated articles and not the biocidal product. Like any biocidal product, treated articles are no different. So the active substances that are being used in biocidal product to incorporate some sort of antibacterial properties, they must be approved by the for the relevant product type and use, and also they must be listed in the GB and EU active substance approval list. And any specific conditions or restrictions relating to active substances have to be met. When you pick up a pack of antibacterial gloves or antibacterial sponge or pair of socks with odor-free claims, you should expect to see the following four statement or information on the pack. So a statement that that the treated article incorporates biocidal product, where substantiated, the biocidal property given to the treated articles, the name of all active substances contained in the biocidal product, including name of all the nanomaterials, any relevant instruction for use, including any precautions to be taken because of the biocidal product that the treated article is treated with or incorporates. So if you are placing any treated article on the market, these are the legal labeling requirement as defined in either Article 57 or 59 of BPR. Thanks, Carys.
Amazing, thank you. So I'm going to go through a case study now, and I just thought for a bit of fun as well, based on what Freesia just mentioned, it would be great to see what your guys' thoughts are. If you put in the chat, if you think this product is a biocidal product, a treated article, or both. So the product we're going to be looking at is a facial towel, and it's got silver within it, so it's supposed to have antibacterial properties. So bacteria grows less on it is essentially what we're looking for here. So a more hygienic towel is what we're looking for. And the brand wanted to sort of look at what those benefits are to the consumer, as well as knowing there's less bacteria on it. What benefits do they actually receive? And in this case, they wanted to look at kind of skincare claims. So if they're to use a product that has less bacteria, does it make their skin better than using a normal towel when they obviously still wash it? Generally, we're not expecting them not to wash it. But when they use it as they would their normal towel, but with this one instead, do they notice an improvement in their skin essentially? So it really is a consumer perception study. As I mentioned earlier, that's what we're looking at. It's, you know, the consumer perception themselves. We're not trying to prove how much less bacteria is on the towel itself. That kind of substantiation is very much lab-based. We're now going, well, does the consumer actually notice it? And if so, what are those benefits? So we gather things like before and after photos as well, so they can use it in the marketing material. But yeah, this is generally what we're looking at. So yeah, pop in the chat if you think that this is a treated article or a biocidal product or both, and we'll see what you guys think. But to go on with the case study while you're doing that, the panel criteria for this case study, it's a USA study, as that is where their main market is. So obviously we want to reflect those consumers. We had a majority female panel, but partly male as well, because again, that is who they're looking to sell the product to. They know that their female consumers can be more interested in those skincare benefits, but also there will be male consumers as well. A nice wide age range, because that wasn't a huge issue with this study, but obviously we wanted to get things like aging skin. So we needed to make sure we had a higher age range, but also acne prone skin. So generally slightly younger age range as well. Obviously there's both in both categories, but we want to have a nice spread. We also looked at things like rosacea and irritated skin, generally skin conditions that come out of having less cleansed skin or having things that irritate your skin. So again, we're looking at that and seeing if it causes less irritation to those skin problems. We also had a nationally representative demographic panel. So looking at the USA, what ethnicities lie there and making sure we had a representation, because it's really important if you're selling in a country that everyone is represented, so your claims aren't driven towards one ethnicity. And obviously we had a recommended skincare routine, which was going to be sold as part of this towel as well. So we wanted them to follow the same thing. And I'll kind of explain what that is a little bit actually. So then we had the usage instructions was to double cleanse, removal with a wet towel, and then do a press and pat technique to dry the face and then moisturize. So we needed to make sure that every consumer already had this skincare regime, because again, we want to make sure that it's better than their usual towel, but that they were doing the same thing. Because of course, if some people just do normal cleansing, other people double cleanse, we could have different results there. So we want to make sure we've kind of got a level playing field. Even though it's a consumer perception, they're using it in their own home, we need to have as much control as possible on the study. So they used it every day for 30 days. This was important because, again, it's changing a general thing that you have in your lifestyle. It's not an instant effect. It's noticing these changes over time. Obviously, we used it on their face only. We do have a body towel as well we did for them, but in this case, we did it in the face. And just to note to say, we had to have safety precautions on there that have to be with the applicable regulations is really important. So what were the results? So obviously we sent out this towel and we got these questionnaire, which is based on the claims that they're looking to make. We make it into a questionnaire and see who agrees with them essentially. So in this case, we've got the claims on our left-hand side. We've got our satisfied answers, the number of people, satisfied, neutral, and not satisfied, and then the percentage of people that were satisfied, neutral, or not satisfied. So the kind of claims we were looking at is people saying their skin looks healthier. So we had 75% agreeing with that one. The towel feeling beneficial to the skin. So do they notice any benefits at all? People feeling confident in the cleanliness. So again, they know that it's going to have some antibacterial properties. It doesn't make them feel confident. And that it enhances their cleansing experience they have generally. So as you can see, we actually had some really positive results here. This is obviously a snippet of the claims we asked, but generally there were quite a few more neutrals than I expect to see in most studies. So it could be that they need to use it for a longer time to be able to really notice those benefits or to understand it further. But yeah, generally really positive results, which is really good to see. So yeah, we saw some people did really notice some differences from using this towel. In terms of legislation, which I always want to bring up as well, why was it so important for us to do this study? Why can't we just say, oh, it's antibacterial and therefore it is better and is going to have these benefits? You can't make a claim without evidence behind it. So under the Federal Trade Commission, which is obviously the USA, where we were doing the study and where their market is, advertising must be truthful and non-deceptive. You must have evidence to back up your claims and it can't be unfair. So really the main thing there is about having evidence. Obviously, if you have evidence, it should be truthful and obviously unfair. So we can't say that it's better than another towel. If we haven't got some evidence to say that, that would be unfair to other towels. So then I really want to talk about the market research we did as well, because it is a really interesting topic when we're talking about what the consumer understands. So like most people, for me, I don't know anything about biocides as a consumer. I see the word antibacterial and I know that means it's more hygienic. It's basically my level of knowledge in terms of the whole regulation side. So I've learned a lot from doing this webinar as well. But this is why it was so interesting to do this research, and we knew there'd be some interesting things to talk about. We recruited this based on people that use treated articles in particular. So ask them what kinds of products, consumer products they use that have antibacterial properties. We also had a kind of level playing field of male and female, slightly more weighted towards the 40 plus age range. And that's really because we wanted to leave this open. We didn't know which age ranges would be using these kinds of products the most. So kept it nice and open. So it's based on 217 people in the UK, and we can go through that research. So interesting things that we picked up on. We asked people what they expect from antibacterial products. This was a free range answer, so free text, people just giving their explanation. And then we looked at what the trends were there and summarized them to kind of give us some quantitative data for that qualitative input. And really the main things were illness prevention. Hardly surprising in the age of COVID, that is what people are looking for. And then general things of hygiene. There's a lot of personal hygiene there from people using gloves and, shoes, things like that, but also the hygiene of their home. Because as you'll see when we go through this research, people are asked about antibacterial sort of treated articles, but they see the word antibacterial and automatically people's head goes towards what they're spraying on their products at home, what are they putting on their hands. So yeah, it was kind of a very interesting consumer insight into the fact that even though you tell them that we're asking about particular antibacterial products, the word antibacterial really resonates with every kind of antibacterial product that exists out there. But generally people are thinking of protection, also convenience. And I think a lot of that came from people talking about antibacterial wipes, because obviously it's more convenient than having a spray and a cloth. And then also reassurance, and some people just saying it's their preference. So we had a very small amount of people just saying, I prefer it. So there's that as well. We also wanted to know if they look at the product labels of with the products they're buying. So we had 70% of people say yes and 30% say no. Me and Freesia found this quite interesting because I thought it would be more and she thought it would be less people that check the labels. And I said, well, actually, there is obviously a social bias that happens in market research. So when you ask people, well, did you check the label? They'll kind of go, oh, yeah, I definitely do, because they think they should. So there could be a bit of potential there, maybe not the most reliable data in that sense. And this is why we're really scratching the surface with this one. It's always something we can investigate further and look into that a bit more. But generally, yeah, 70% of people are saying they check the labels. It depends what they think they're checking as well. And again, it's really scratching the surface of that question. But on from that, the people that did check the labels, we asked them what they expect to see on the packaging as well. And this is where it becomes quite interesting in terms of where we were saying, I think a lot of it related to the antibacterial products, like they used to, like disinfectants, essentially. So efficacy claims was a big thing. And as Freesia mentioned, that is important. You need to say that the product performs, you need to have the product performance on there and prove that it can perform and do what you're asking it to do. So interestingly, that's what the consumers want at the top of the list as well. They need to know that the product is substantiated to do the claims that you're expecting it to do. A big one was kill claims. People want to know what bacteria, what viruses, everything like that is actually killed by the antibacterial product. People want to see the ingredients. They want to see the word antibacterial. And again, that's quite an obvious one, but that's what they're really looking for. If they want to see a label, if it says antibacterial on it in those wordings, that's what's going to drive them towards the product as well. Obviously, things like usage and strict directions and warnings, symbols alongside that as well. The ingredient claim, so not just the ingredients, but why is that ingredient in there? What does it actually do? And then obviously general claims, general things on the packaging that you'd expect from any kind of consumer good. So fragrance, things about being cruelty-free, disposal instructions, price and size. So yeah, definitely the kind of the top players there. We need to make sure that it's got efficacy claims on there. What is the performance and why does it do it? What are the kill claims and everything else that we need to know about what's in that product. We asked them how long they think they last as well. So this was a bit of a trick question, as Freesia mentioned, because obviously with an with a treated article in particular, there's only so much life it has in it. So for example, if we were looking at something like the towel we discussed earlier, there's only going to be so many times you can wash it, but it has that kind of potency for that biocidal product that's within the treated article. So that's going to have an effect on it. And I know, Freesia, you kind of discussed it in a bit more depth. I don't know if you want to add anything to it as well.
No, I do. Yeah, just as we discussed previous to earlier, it's that is where it brings the labeling requirement into force, that if there is any precautions or if there is any restrictions or requirement that needs to be incorporated by the user in order to use that product, then that type of requirement needs to be stated on the pack. But again, in this case and your questionnaire and survey, we're talking about consumer perception and not necessarily the regulatory requirement of treated articles. But it is interesting to see some people think it will last 6 months or a year.
Is there, so in terms of what you're saying there as well, but so obviously we don't have any misleading claims on our products. do we have to put some kind of warning about how long the product will last? Obviously, it's how long's a piece of string, but is there any kind of warning to say it won't last forever?
I guess it depends on intended use.
Mm.
So, for example, if we're talking about antibacterial towel, I guess the wash and care instruction should be very specific, take into account the substance that has been added to the fiber, i.e. it will be silver or something similar. So they may, the temperature that article needs to be washed, i.e. towel, needs to be specified on the pack. And it all depends how the product is being marketed. I think from what I'm gathering based on the data you provided, I think that particular antibacterial towel, I think, is trying to claim or do more than what is more than intended use, I guess, of the products, i.e. by making my skin glow or cleaner. Whereas I guess I don't believe the antibacterial property of that towel will have any impact on my my skin cleanliness.
Yes, absolutely. It's where we have to have that discussion from marketing side and regulation. And there's always these crossovers of, oh, are we touching on something a little bit too out there?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to talk about just, sorry, I've also put into the questionnaire just about how confident people feel. I feel like this is quite obvious, but it's nice to see as well in data. So do people feel more confident when they're using a product that says it's got antibacterial properties? So I know things like you get shopping bags and things like that say antibacterial. This is really what we're looking at here and seeing if people feel more confident, and overwhelmingly, yes. This again, I thought was quite an obvious one, but I wanted to get a little bit of a chart on it to say, do people think they've changed their purchase habits for antibacterial products since the COVID pandemic? And of course, the majority of people saying they use much more, if not at least a little more, which just shows how, how important it is when we do have these really scary things going on, that these products exist and that they're readily available for consumers, because it does, if anything, it gives people more confidence and reassurance. So to summarize, before we go to our question and answers, basically the biocides market is growing, but there have been issues with supplying the demand. Make sure you don't make misleading claims by incorrectly stating biocidal product that should be, or treated article. So we don't want to say something has got certain functions that it doesn't have. That's a huge part of any kind of product we work on. The functions and the claims must match up because we don't want to mislead the consumers. Always seek advice on determining whether your product is biocidal, a treated article, or both, to make sure you're abiding by the appropriate regulatory requirements. And that's where Freesia can really help. Consumers do feel safer when using products that claim antibacterial. So it's a good route to go down if you can. If you're looking at kind of products and thinking, can we make it a treated article? Is that a route we want to go down? Well, consumers do have a kind of need for it as well, and they do feel safer. But obviously, all claims need to be substantiated with verifiable evidence, and that is where we can really help as well. So we've got our question and answer time. So I'm going to come over and see what we've got in so far. I know that people were kind of commenting. I only have one comment on the towel, unfortunately, but we had a comment to say that it's biocidal. So, Freesia, would you say it's a treated article or a biocidal product?
I'm afraid it was the towel. Antibacterial towel is treated article. And just going back to what we discussed earlier, you have to think about the primary function of that article. So by removing the antibacterial properties of antibacterial towel, the main function of towel remain unaltered. So you can use towel to dry your face or your body, and antibacterial substance or a mixture has been added to the fiber of the article to stop or delay growth of any bacteria, or to remove odor. So the answer is treated article, I'm afraid, not a biocidal product.
Absolutely. Like I said, the recording's going back out, so if you want to look back on the definitions there, you're very, very welcome to, if you're still getting your head around it, or feel free to reach out to Freesia and she'll be really happy to help as well.
Absolutely.
So I can't see any more questions coming in. I'm quite surprised. I think everyone's probably been overloaded by information. and we'll have lots of questions to come. And that's absolutely fine, because we can send out I will be sending out our contact information alongside the recording. So if you'd rather reach out at a later point with some questions, you're very welcome to. So in that case, I'm going to start closing off the webinar. So just wanted to let you know, I've got a webinar coming up next week, which will be my last webinar of the month, which is going to be clothing and apparel testing. So again, something a bit different, but how do we look at how we can test clothing and apparel with consumers? And there's our contact information. But as I said, I'm going to send it out anyway. But thank you so much for joining me, Freesia. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's my pleasure. And as you mentioned, yeah, we can accept if you've got any queries, any question. I understand the topic can be quite confusing. But just before we finish, just always think about primary function of your product and whether that can be altered or removed if you remove the antibacterial part. So that usually answers your question. But if you've got any questions, please contact me. My contact detail is there, and I will be more than happy to assist you. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. And thank you to everyone for joining today. And I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and we'll be in touch soon. Thank you.
Thank you.